Welcome to FCPS All-Stars. Our guest for today is Eric Bokinsky, Career and Technology Education Teacher at Oakdale Middle School. Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Good to have you with us today.
It's fun to be here.
I often find that our FCPS staff really like to exercise and stay active. What do you do to keep active?
I do a lot of running. I've run 4 full marathons and between 25 and 30 half marathons. A lot of hiking, but I like to do all those things because I like to eat.
So the eating is what motivates you to run?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Well, I have to say, I would have to run like Forrest Gump in order for me to be able to eat everything that I would like to eat.
Right.
When you talk about being active, what other things do you like to do to be active with your family?
Anything that involves being outdoors. Both of my children enjoy athletics. My son plays football, baseball, basketball. My daughter enjoys being outdoors, archery. She plays volleyball 2 seasons a year. Then of course my wife likes to be outside too. Water skiing, biking, walking, things like that. So
you are tremendously active.
I'd say fairly active guy, sure, yeah.
And now that's on a personal level. On a professional level, I know that you've been in active military.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I spent about 21 years total with the United States Army and the Maryland Army National Guard. I was a military police officer for 18 of those 21 years.
And what did the Army teach you about being active?
Well, it's just part of the game. That's the first thing we did every morning. 6 o'clock was an hour's worth of PT. But you have to be in top physical condition to survive in the military because much of the training and the work we do where we're active is physically demanding.
Were you ever deployed?
I was deployed several times. Back in 1990 and 91, I served during the first Gulf War. Right after 9/11, I served a year tour that was split between the Pentagon, Fort Stewart, Georgia, and then about half of that time was down at U.S. Naval Base, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And then shortly after that, I served for about a year in Iraq.
Wow. Now, what were your duties? My
battalion specialized in running enemy prisoner of war camps. So that's what we did in Guantanamo Bay. My battalion actually opened up that prison down there.
Wow.
And then in Iraq, we actually ran 2 prisons there. One was sort of like a central booking for some of the curfew violators or other bad guys they picked up downtown, and then the second one was for high-value targets, high-value detainees, former members of the Ba'ath Party that were picked up.
And so those were 2 that were away. Did you have any deployments within the United States?
Yeah, I did a couple in the United States. The last one I did was back in 2005, right after Hurricane Katrina. So I spent about 3 weeks down in the New Orleans area right after Katrina.
Wow. So if you had to compare, because those are vastly different deployments,
right.
If you had to compare the conditions after Katrina and the conditions in Iraq, what would you say was more challenging?
They were more similar than you might imagine.
Really?
Yeah. You know, we were in the middle of the desert and in the middle of, you know, kind of a war-ravaged Baghdad area when I was over in the Middle East. But in the United States, you kind of expect everything to be in place for you, but you know, the hurricane and all the flooding had knocked out all electricity, knocked out power. So there's no fresh water, there's no air conditioning, there's no comforts of home that you would expect in the United States, and it was hot. It was very hot and humid in late August, early September down in New Orleans.
Wow. And what was the temperature in Iraq?
There were days where it was 100 degrees by 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was much more humid than you might imagine too.
Oh, really? I would think it would be desert.
Oh, it was swampy. It was pretty swampy. We're right in the middle of the Tigris and Euphrates river valleys, so it was pretty humid.
Okay, now in the middle of all of your military service and all of your deployments, how did you find time to find a wife, get married, have children?
Right. I met my wife in 1997. We actually met at Deer Crossing Elementary School.
Okay.
During both of our first years of teaching. Well, it's no secret now. But so we got married in 1999. So I was about halfway through my military career, a little bit more than halfway through. And my we actually welcomed our daughter in between my first 2 big deployments
Really?
after we got married, yes. So I got home from Cuba and didn't really have time enough to have a child in between, and my daughter was 3 weeks old when I left for Iraq, so I came home and pretty much missed her whole first year of life.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and then Nico came afterwards. My wife said she wouldn't have any more children until I retired, so I retired.
She called your bluff.
Well, happy wife, happy life, right?
Now, with all of your military experience, how do you transition that knowledge and those skill sets to your students?
I think it's just a part of just setting high standards for yourself. I'm a very demanding teacher. I set pretty high standards for my kids as well. They know I'm picky. Career and technology education is kind of a picky field. So I want them to, I always tell them to think about when they're a little kid and they're hanging those things from kindergarten up on the refrigerator. I want all of their work to be refrigerator worthy. So I set high standards. I want them to challenge themselves and stretch themselves because, every time they try something difficult and they're successful, it gives them confidence to try something even more difficult later on.
Do you have any particular notion as to what impact you've had on your students' lives?
Well, I like to think that the learning keeps going long after they leave my classroom. Every May it's always kind of a special treat when that steady stream of seniors comes back to visit with you before they graduate. I don't remember too many of my junior high school teachers' names. I don't know if that's something I would have even done as a senior. So for them to come back and visit with me, that's quite flattering.
That does speak volumes.
Yeah.
Are there any particular students that stand out to you?
I could think of one for sure, a girl named Mary. I taught her in 5th grade at Deer Crossing, and 2 years later I had her as a 7th grader at Oakdale Middle School when we both changed schools. So as long as I could remember, she'd always want to be a naval officer. Given my history in the military, I jokingly said, hey, when you get that commission, I want your first salute. And so she applied to get into the Naval Academy. She was unsuccessful in getting in. She reapplied again after her freshman year at College Park. Still did not get accepted. So she wrote out the Naval ROTC program at College Park. And after 4 years, when she was ready to graduate and get commissioned, she invited me to come be that first salute.
Really?
Yeah.
So she kept her word.
She kept her word. Considering her grandfather was a naval veteran and a retired captain, to offer me that's a gesture that's just flattering beyond any words that I could come up with.
And that just speaks volumes to what you pour into your kids.
I hope so. I hope.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us on FCPS All-Stars. And I'd also like to thank you for your service to your country. We so appreciate all of your sacrifice and everything that you've done, and also all that you've poured into our students as well. We appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Join us next week and see who we have in line for FCPS All-Stars. Shine on!